The night we've all been waiting for the past 6 months is finally here. The Islanders start the 2024-2025 NHL season tonight against the Utah Hockey Club. We're going to have a preview of that game and a whole lot more coming up on today's Locked On Islanders podcast.
Your Locked On Islanders, your daily podcast on the New York Islanders. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome, everybody, to the Thursday edition of the Locked On Islanders podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I want to thank everyone who makes Locked On Islanders your first listen every day. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts so you get new episodes as soon as they drop. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. We have got a lot to discuss, but the day we've been waiting for is finally here. But first, if there's something Islanders related on your mind, if you have a question, a comment, maybe a topic you'd like us to discuss on a future episode, just send us an email, the lockedonislanders@gmail.com. And if you leave your first name and where you're from, we're happy to mention you on the show when we discuss whatever it is that's on your mind. You can also follow the show on X at Locked On Isles, and you can follow me, Gil Martin, on X at Ice Wars, NYR, VSNYI. We'll keep you up to date on all things Islanders all year long, and I am live tweeting during nearly every Islanders home and road game. So join me for some instant insight and analysis, and it's great to talk a little Islanders hockey with you, game time or anytime. Opening night is tonight. Islanders, Utah Hockey Club, UBS Arena. I am excited about the prospect of this. It's a 7:30 Eastern time start, and we are going to have a full preview of that game coming up a little bit later on in the show. But first, I wanted to talk about some key players that will determine the Islanders' fate. And, you know, there are plenty of reasons for optimism this year. I think we do seem to see a new attitude or a new spirit around this team. So, to me, that's always a positive. I think having Patrick Waugh there from day one is a positive. But, some of the keys in my mind, you got to start with Ilya Sorokin. And with Sorokin, there's two parts to the key. Number one is his health. That's obvious. We know he sat out all of the preseason and almost all of training camp after having surgery on his back during the offseason. We have no idea when the surgery was, exactly what the surgery was. All of these things are unknowns. But the Islanders need more from Ilya Sorokin than they got a year ago. They need him to return to the form that he showed 2, 3, and 4 years ago rather than what he was last year. And it wasn't all on Sorokin. Obviously, the team struggled in front of him. There was no question about that. But they didn't play good defense. They got stuck in their own zone far too many times. But Sorokin himself will be the first to tell you he was not playing up to his normal standards. And now it is time for him to get back to where he was and to really give the Islanders more than what he did a year ago. If he can do that, the team will be better. Noah Dobson also, to me, makes this list. Why? He took a big step forward offensively last year. To me, now, for him to really be a legit Norris Trophy candidate, first of all, another 65, 70, 75-point season would certainly get him a lot of votes. But the other factor is his defense. And I'm not expecting Noah Dobson to be the next Dave Langevin or, the next shutdown defenseman, Pelech, Pollock, in their prime. No. but he can't be making those big mistakes, the turnovers, the bad decisions when trying to transition and clear the zone. Dobson taking another step forward would absolutely be huge. Two other players that I think obviously make this list: Anthony Duclair and Maxim Siplikov. For Duclair, having that third bona fide top six guy to play with Bo and Barzy is huge. And if Duclair can, give you 25 and 60, 25 goals, 60 points, if he can add a little juice to the power play and to the top line, you're talking about another way this team can step forward. And again, with Duclair, similar to Dobson, he doesn't have to be, the next great defensive forward, but give me a guy who is at least average and responsible defensively, and I think he's going to be fine. As for Siplikov, man, if he complements Nelson and Palmieri on that second line, if he adds a little more juice to the power play, I love the way he's been screening goalies. All of that will go a long way. As far as the blue line is concerned, in general, but I'm directing it more at Ryan Pollock, Adam Pelech, and Scott Mayfield. Stay healthy. Guys, just stay healthy. Getting the defense to be healthier. And look, not every player is going to play 82 games, but missing 25 games, or in Mayfield's case, 41 games, and playing through a broken ankle for the other 40 of his 41 games, that's a big chunk of time. So if we could keep all of our defensemen at 70 games or more, I think that would be a big step forward for this team. And then, can guys like Anders Lee and J.G. Pageau bounce back after poor offensive seasons by their standards? Or are these guys on the downturn of their careers at this point? Is Lee, fading and not going to be able to give you 25 goals a year or even 20 like he did last year anymore? And can he still contribute playing on the third line? J.G. Pageau, 11 goals, got to be better than that. Can Kyle Palmieri stay healthy? Can Simon Holmstrom take a step forward? If Ilya Sorokin is limited in games, can Semyon Varlamov play 45, 50 games if he needs to? Will Kyle McLean establish himself firmly as an everyday player in the NHL for a full season? And is Oliver Wahlstrom going to take advantage of his last chance with the Islanders and establish himself in some kind of a role as a regular contributor to this team? And the last thing I'm going to add in this category of players and things that the Islanders need to improve, let's get special teams better. The power play, you're adding talent in Duclair and Siplikov. And I think adding Riley to the second power play unit as the quarterback. Hopefully Dobson improves as a power play quarterback. It's something he has the skill for, but hasn't consistently done well. He's very talented. He picks up points with the man advantage, but he's not a great power play quarterback yet. If he can make progress in that area, and then PK, no more Cal Clutterbuck. He's gone as far as the Islanders are concerned as a player. But, Kyle McLean, Casey Cizikas, J.G. Pageau, Simon Holmstrom, can these guys, with Tommy Alboline's new system and help from the Blue Liners, can they get the penalty kill to respectability? I don't anticipate this to be an elite penalty kill after being dead last in the league a year ago, but get me to average. Anything more than average is a big bonus. Get me to 18, 17, 16th in the league, and make it so that the penalty kill is not hurting this team so much that, it just causes them to lose a lot of games. So those are the key factors, player-wise, and a couple of units, where if you get improvement in those areas, this team can be better than they were a year ago. It's got to be consistent. The effort has to be there. 60-minute effort, not 50, not 40. Got to hold on to those third period leads, but all of the other factors contribute to that. Being physical, being smart with the puck, clearing the puck out of your zone, being well conditioned, not taking your foot off the gas. All of these things is what leads you to not blow leads. And I hope, for the sake of this team, that Patrick Roy instills in these players the things they need to do to be consistent and get the job done better than they did a year ago. And hopefully that means a better one-loss record and better results this year for the New York Islanders. We'll see. It all starts tonight, and we've got more to get to. Cal Clutterbuck not coming back as a player, but he will be with the organization in a new role. We're going to talk about that. Plus, we'll preview tonight's game against the Utah Hockey Club. Still getting used to how that sounds. And for our Islanders' birthday of the day, a Princeton, New Jersey native who attended Yale and played for the Islanders in the late 80s and early 90s. Let's see if you can guess who that is. We've got all that and a lot more coming up on today's Locked On Islanders podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by your friends at FanDuel. Hey, NFL fans, you could start the season with a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more, all on the same page where you place your bets. You can get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. And hey, it's opening night tonight. Check out the odds for the Islanders to win the first game of the season. You can still bet on your futures. Will any of the Islanders players be getting, more or less than a certain point total? Will the Islanders make the playoffs? How many points will the Islanders get? Check out all the latest odds at FanDuel.com. So, $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place that first $5 bet at FanDuel.com. Check out FanDuel. It's America's #1 sportsbook. So, Cal Clutterbuck did not sign a contract, did not even sign a PTO, and yet he will be working on MSG Network tonight when the Islanders basically host the Utah Hockey Club to open up the season. He will be part of MSG Network's coverage, and we'll see. Now, Clutterbuck has said he is not officially retired. He's in shape. He trained all summer, just like he was going to play. But let's face it, the Islanders don't have the cap room to bring him back, and they may not even have room on the roster to bring him back, even if there was a little cap space available. So he is now going to officially join the broadcast. Now, you got Thomas Hickey. He has done things. You've seen Corey Schneider. You've seen Matt Molson a few years back. You see Rick DiPietro. Obviously, Butch Goring is another former player, but from a very different era. We're not sure exactly what role Clutterbuck will play. He is going to be an analyst of some kind, but I'm looking forward to seeing it. Look, Cal Clutterbuck, smart guy, witty guy, knows the sport of hockey, obviously, inside out and backwards, and seeing what he has to say, and certainly he has some inside knowledge about his recent teammates, well, that's going to be great. And here's what Clutterbuck said to Newsday. Genuinely, I'm just looking forward to the start of the year, and I'm looking forward to seeing the guys do well. They've looked good through training camp. They had a hard training camp, which I think is good for a team. I think they're going to have a great start. I'm looking forward to watching. I'm looking forward to being involved and staying with the organization in some capacity. Now, we do know Matt Martin is still on his PTO. He has not signed a contract. I don't think, again, barring some way to open up a lot of cap space, I don't think we're going to see Matt Martin. Clutterbuck did not feel like a PTO worked for him. Clutterbuck also basically didn't see an opportunity with another team that was, as he said, good for him and his family. So right now, Cal Clutterbuck and Matt Martin, even though they're not on the roster, both of them still part of the organization. Clutterbuck working at MSG Network, Martin still hanging around, practicing with the team on the PTO. And, that is kind of cool. And I'm looking forward to seeing, what kind of a role that Clutterbuck has and how he does. Now, our projected line combinations for the New York Islanders. And look, we know Patrick Waugh. These line combinations are almost guaranteed not to stay the same, during a game, let alone from game to game. But we're going to start the season most likely with Bo Horvat, Anthony Duclair, and Matthew Barzal as the top line. Brock Nelson, Maxim Siplikov, Kyle Palmieri, your second line. The third line, J.G. Pageau, Anders Lee, and Simon Holmstrom. And then the new fourth line, Kyle McLean at center, Casey Cizikas on the wing, and Oliver Wahlstrom on the right side. Now, keep in mind, Patrick Waugh said that, McLean has been working on his faceoffs, so he will be the center. And Cizikas, we could see him again, like we did last year, bouncing around to different lines depending on the situation, depending on injuries, depending on what the opponent looks like, what the team's needs are. But McLean, who has been working on his faceoffs all offseason and did do better in the dot during the preseason after only winning 42% of his faceoffs last year. He's going to take faceoffs. And, the good thing is when you've got two guys on a line who can take faceoffs, and you have that in Horvat and Barzal, although Barzy's not very good at it. You have that in McLean and Cizikas, Pageau and Lee. If someone gets kicked out of the circle, you've got a pretty good chance still of winning the draw. Now, the defensive pairings, Noah Dobson, Alexander Romanov, the top pair, Adam Pelech and Ryan Pollock, the second pair, and then Mike Riley and Scott Mayfield, the third pair, Varlamov and Sorokin, the goalies. Lou Lamoriello and Patrick Waugh, by the way, have not yet officially ruled out Ilya Sorokin from being the Islanders goalie tonight. I still think it's highly unlikely that he starts, but he is going to be dressed. He is going to be in uniform, and at the very least, he will serve as the backup. So, it's going to be interesting, but that looks like your Islanders lineup, and then the extra players right now, you have Julian Gauthier as your extra forward, and you have Dennis Cholowski as your extra defenseman. And the key, in my mind, you still starting the season right now with 22 guys instead of 23 because of cap constraints. So we'll see whether or not that ever gets resolved. And, the concern is if a couple of injuries hit, the Islanders, will have to get creative with the cap in order to be cap compliant if they need to start calling players up from Bridgeport. But we'll see. So that is your opening line combinations and defense pairs. Again, Patrick Waugh likes to change things up within a game, not just game to game. He gets a feel for how the game is going. If the team is struggling offensively, we could at some point see a shuffle on those lines. But I hope that Waugh gives these lines a little bit of time to gel, that he doesn't make so many changes right away, because this team needs to get to know each other and sort of get a feel for each other. Training camp, one thing, preseason games is another level higher, but regular season is still another level more, and it's important for the Islanders to play more regular season games together and get chemistry. I think, these lines have a lot of potential. Now we have to see them get the job done. More to come on today's show. We'll preview the season opener against Utah. Plus, we will have our Islanders birthday of the day, all that and more coming up on today's Locked On Islanders podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks, and that makes getting tickets for your favorite live events even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. My favorite feature on Game Time remains the view from your seat. You go on the app, and you can get a panoramic view from your seat before you purchase the tickets, so you know exactly what to expect when you arrive. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Just download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL. You'll get $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. Thank you for making Locked On Islanders your first listen today. For your second listen, find Locked On Fantasy Hockey. Become a fantasy hockey expert and get the edge over your league mates with daily tips from Steal and Flip. Find Locked On Fantasy Hockey on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So, game 1 of 82 tonight. Islanders, Utah Hockey Club, formerly the Arizona Coyotes. And let's face facts here. Don't underestimate the already undefeated. Okay, they won their only game over Chicago 5-2 on Tuesday night. The first ever game in Utah. But don't underestimate this team. I know that in recent years, the Arizona Coyotes have not been a league powerhouse, but at the same time, this is a team that has a lot of young, fast talent. And, we've talked all offseason from an Islanders perspective that the Islanders need to get younger, faster, and more skilled. And they have added, some skilled players and some players who can skate a little bit in Gauthier, in Duclair, in Siplikov as far as the skill goes. But keeping up with the Utah Hockey Club won't be as easy, perhaps, as some people expect. So we'll have to see. The line combinations in that opening game, Barrett Hayton centering Clayton Keller and Nick Schmaltz. That's the top line. Keller is so dangerous. Keep your eye out on him. Logan Cooley centers the second line. High draft pick there. Jack McBain to his left. Dylan Gunther to his right. Josh Doan centers Matthias Maselli and Lawson Krause on the third line. And then Kevin Stenlund, Liam O'Brien, and Alex Kerfoot are the fourth unit. On defense, Mikhail Sergachev and Sean Durzi are the top pair, followed by Juuso Valmaki, Michael Kesselring, they're the second pair, and Ian Cole and Vladislav Kolichonok, that's the third pair. In goal, Connor Ingram, he got the start against Chicago in the opener, and Karel Vejmelka. Whether or not we'll see Ingram again or we go to Vejmelka, that remains to be seen. The power play did not score in the season opener, but again, there are some guys out there who are certainly talented. The penalty kill was perfect against the Blackhawks. We'll see how this all ends up playing out, but be ready for a fast team that skates well. Logan Cooley and Nick Schmaltz both had 2 assists. Dylan Gunther had 2 goals. Barrett Hayton, a goal and an assist in the season opener. And, you know, overall, shots on goal, Gunter, he scored twice. He had 5 shots on goal. So we'll see how this all plays out. First road game in the history of the Utah Hockey Club. And I think that for the New York Islanders, this is a solid first test and a team that they cannot afford to take lightly. And hopefully they start the season off on the right foot with a W. And I am really looking forward to seeing how this game plays out. Time now for our Islanders birthday of the day, and we're a couple of days early on this one. But Saturday will be the 61st birthday of former Islanders winger Randy Wood. The Princeton, New Jersey native, 6 foot, 195 pounds, was not drafted. Spent 3 years at Yale and had back-to-back 25-goal seasons there, and then made his Islanders debut in the 86-87 season, and by 87-88, he was a full-time player. Scored 22 goals that year and a pair of 24-goal seasons for the Islanders in 89-90 and 90-91. After the 91-92 season, or early in that season, he was traded to Buffalo as part of the Pat LaFontaine deal. Put up 20-plus goals for 2 of his 3 seasons with the Sabres, then played for the Maple Leafs and the Stars before returning to the Island in 96-97 for 65 games, 741 career games, 175 goals, 334 points, and 603 penalty minutes. Add 8 goals, 17 points in 51 playoff games for Randy Wood, including 13 playoff games in 86-87 with the Islanders. One of his better games as an Islander, January 19th, 1990, the Islanders traveled to Winnipeg to take on the Winnipeg Jets. Glenn Healy, the Islanders goalie, Bob Essenza in net for Winnipeg. And after Dale Hawerchuk made it 1-0 Jets, Randy Wood, our Islanders' birthday of the day, gets things started for the Islanders with a power play goal. Alan Kerr and Doug Crossman with the assist. That tied it at 1. And after Hawerchuk made it 2-1 Winnipeg, the Islanders tie it on a power play goal by David Volek. And then Randy Wood, our Islanders' birthday of the day, scores his second power play goal of the game. Doug Crossman and Jeff Norton with the assist. And later in the second period, Wood completes the hat trick. All 3 goals with the extra attacker. Pat LaFontaine and Jeff Norton get the helpers. Islanders go on to take a 6-4 win on the road in Winnipeg. Brian Trottier with an empty netter to seal the victory. 34 saves in 38 shots for Glenn Healy. But for Randy Wood, our Islanders' birthday of the day, 3 goals on 5 shots, and all 3 were on the power play. That was his only career NHL hat trick. Randy Wood is our Islanders' birthday of the day. I want to thank everyone who makes Locked On Islanders your first listen every day, everydayers. We're back tomorrow as we have our key takeaways and our hero and GOAT of the game from the season opener against Utah, and we will also preview the game on Saturday night against the Dallas Stars. So make sure you join us for that. That's an 8 o'clock start on the road, and a 3-game road trip coming up. Dallas, Colorado, and St. Louis should be, again, a nice test to start the season. Have a great night, everybody. Stay safe, and of course, let's go Islanders.